Well, hello there, Goblin. If he was still a rotten person, but delivered some progressive policies, I would be willing to look the other way a little bit more when it comes to, Donald Trump, the Trumpster fire. Still, I agree that his behavior and those he surrounded himself with, and the MAGA bullshit artists and followers are why I dislike him. It is a lot of the bombastic behavior, and it's what he's done to America in such a short time. From the moment he started his campaign, it was as if he had asked someone, "Well, what's the secret to getting elected?" And that person told him, "Be a bottom of the barrel, stupid, racist asshole, and you'll get ahead, Donnie." And unfortunately, that did work for a while. Of course, he is still running in 2024, despite, the mounting indictments and the sweeping scandals that are happening everywhere, including, the resurfaced fact that he's continually lusted over his own daughter in public. And it was such a common practice for Trump that no one can even reasonably claim that it might be like a deep fake or something. I mean, I saw some of those clips myself when they first appeared on like Howard Stern and that sort of thing. So, it was public information for a long time, and now people are just being freshly reminded what a creep he is, even regarding his own daughters. So, do I think he'll win? Well, he will have to learn how to win again, which I'm not sure he's capable of doing at this point. He seems to be stuck in the muck, sputtering his wheels, and I kind of love it. So, no, I cannot say yes, I think he'll win. But, and there is usually a but, isn't there? I don't think he's now guaranteed to lose either, or that we could say that about the Republicans generally. Regarding Trump's 2016 win, I think the Democrats had a very tough time getting past the first four stages of grief. There was denial, anger, bargaining, and depression in the classic formula before they could approach the final one, acceptance. And they have had a lot to deal with. They've been afraid to face the actual reality, which is that they are at least partly responsible for how we got here by being stereotypical corporate Democrats and still, to this day, doing far too much to cater to these Republicans. This is bad for progressives and bad for the American people overall. My view is that this will end in tears for progressives. The sweet, delicious tears that, the GOP trolls love so much. And perhaps too much of the Supreme Court and America will continue to be changed as a result of years of corporate money and theocratic lunacy in American politics. Certainly, we have had a few wins here and there. All right, I can admit that. I want to take the good with the bad, but there's still that dreaded feeling of what's next around every corner, isn't there? But I do think the Democratic Party will suffer big time in the long run. I think the major establishment Dems want to keep the party's hands tied to keep spouting platitudes and doing occasional modest things while still serving corporate interests, and to keep politics merely as sports entertainment for dumbasses. So, again, I'm not trying to say there is absolutely no difference, but there isn't enough of a difference, even now. However, that sort of internalized suffering might have to make way for a renewed progressive movement, which was partly signified by the huge youth voter turnout in the 2022 midterms. These younger voters are most certainly more progressive than the lame-o establishment Dems who are drowning in corporate cash. So the Dems will suffer that way, I think. and will struggle to find relevance unless they shift a little more in a sensible, quote unquote, leftist direction with each election season. And maybe not just in terms of rhetoric, but in actual gains for working class Americans. But again, it's gonna there's things are gonna have to get worse before they're gonna get better. I think that much has actually been established. I really don't think it's just me saying that. I don't think it's just a cute little expression to throw around. I think it's actually true. Unfortunately, of course, there are some out there who will say, "Wade, dude, you're spending too much time criticizing Democrats." And you know what? I'll actually throw those dogs a bone this time. As I'm looking back at the past 7 or 8 years, I agree that it's hard to downplay the severity, or the severity, I should say, of what Trump has done. And those who thought, oh, Trump probably won't be so bad, have not been vindicated. I remember what some were saying at the time. The immediate cries of outrage will fade, and Americans will begin to realize that Trump is, in his own way, very much like every other president in the 20th century. Well, no, he's not. The only reason he didn't totally fuck this place up was because he was too stupid and lazy to fully manage that, as well as there being some safeguards in place, including, some of the classics put in there by the much vaunted founding fathers, the people who these right wingers claim to love so much, yet constantly want to kick to the side. And, there were a few key players, including even some Trump politicians and Trump judges, who refused to play ball in the crooked coup game that he was playing. But it really wasn't for lack of trying, especially as Trump got more and more desperate toward the end of his term. Then, of course, I would laughably hear some people say, in so many words, he can't begin to do as much damage as those past presidents, but he may be able to change American culture for the better. It's like the ultra optimistic angle. As if Trump was just a representative of a few traditional values questions that we see every year, and he wasn't, tied to a bunch of different neo-Nazi types, neo-fascists. And again, we've reached the point where there's no plausible deniability there, because right around the time that Trump kicked off his 24 campaign, he was literally having a Thanksgiving dinner with two literal Hitler loving Holocaust deniers. I mean, somehow people are still not apparently recognizing the immensity of that moment. I mean, that should have ended his campaign right from the start. That that's just a bizarre fact that that actually happened, and it should have been immediately disqualifying. And it sends up major red flags that it wasn't somehow. And some who were lukewarm to Trump, of course, told me the government won't be run in the way the left wanted, and we may see the end of their childish tantrums for a while. And won't that be refreshing? As if it was only the left throwing tantrums for those 4 years. It turns out that Trumpist Republicans are some of the biggest crybaby spoiled sports that the world has ever known, and quite possibly will ever know. I guess, maybe a future society will somehow be even more cringe inducing than this, but whew, this has been something else to witness. It reminds me of an article for Kids Health that I had read. So there's an actual quote. Toddlers want independence and control over their environment more than they can actually handle. This can lead to power struggles as a child thinks, I can do it myself, or I want it, give it to me. When kids discover that they can't do it and can't have everything they want, they may have a tantrum. So wow, who does that make you think of? you know? In this case, Trump wanted the whole country as his toy, and now he's basically saying, if I can't play with my toy, then no one can. But it turns out the 2022 midterms saw a high youth vote turnout that stalled some of the neo fascist plans for now, but they are guaranteed to make a resurgence as soon as they can, and some of these people absolutely want the next major election to be the last election that America shall ever need. This is why down ballot impact has been so important, too. Unfortunately, as the Cook Political Report noted on its website in 2020, quote, many Democratic donors are falling are failing to meaningfully invest in state and local elections. Quoting Amanda Littman and Ross Morales of Rocketto, the co-founders of Run for Something, a progressive group working to convince Democrats to run for office up and down the ballot. Quote, to them, defeating Trump is the only point of 2020. That myopic focus on winning the White House is a critical failure of the Democratic Party's strategy. The fact is, both down ballot and high offices matter substantially, almost equally. I guess it's debatable which one would matter more. So, as this craziness continues to unfold, as more indictments are going to come along, we're going to see just how crazy things are going to get. And, it's going to potentially become a Mad Max type scenario. And I'm not a huge fan of the movie Mad Max, but I guess things could get pretty wild. So we might see some more of this kind of shit unfold in real time. And you know, it's a work in progress, I guess you might say. So that's about all I have to say for now on this. And yeah, have a good day, if at all possible.